to the April 25th regular meeting of the Novi Community School District Board of Education. Thank you for being here this evening with us. I would appreciate a roll call vote, Mr. Mena.
Trustee Cook?
Here.
Trustee Hood?
Here.
Trustee Mena here. Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Roney?
Here.
Trustee Ruskin?
She is absent this evening.
Trustee Smith?
Here.
Okay, terrific. If you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, the first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion. Mrs. Hood,
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
there's support. I'll support. Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mrs. Roney. We do need to do roll call votes this evening. We have Mr. Cook who's tuned in remotely, so I would appreciate if you could do a roll call vote, Mr. Mena.
Trustee Cook? Trustee Cook? Trustee Hood?
Yes.
Trustee
Yes.
Mena? Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Roney?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Okay. I think there's just a slight delay, so we'll just have to be a little patient this evening. Okay, our first exciting item on the agenda is our student board member report.
Thank you. We have two of our middle school students here. We would ask them to introduce themselves, tell the role they play at the middle school, and give their report.
Hello, my name is Manish Shailini, and I'm an 8th grader at Novi Middle School.
Hi, my name is Pulkit Chaudhary, and I'm also an 8th grader at Novi Middle School.
And we're going to present you guys the board report. So, to start off, in our NMS media class, Michael Kitkowski and Jack Stefanick won Best in Show at the DAFT Michigan Student Film Festival for their spelling bee competition. Sky Ueki also won Best in Show at the same festival for a short independent film, Spoons.
Both films will be shown at the Detroit Institute of Arts Michigan Film Theater on April 27th. Several other students entered as well. Tobias Gifford and Farheen Hirji received an award for excellence for their entry, WNMS Behind the Scenes. Hung Young received an honor award for the entry, WNMS Animated Opener. While they may have not earned Best in Show, they still earned high quality marks.
The middle school will participate in a Novi Power Day on Friday, April 26th. Students will be coming over from the high school to lead a circle discussion with 8th grade classes about transitioning to the high school next year. Classes will be competing in relay races and a digital breakout activity to learn more about teamwork. Students and teachers will be completing 2 surveys about the impact that Novi Power is having on our school's culture and climate. Our 7th grade students will be creating public service announcements about preventing bullying, how to report it, and stand up to bullying. We would like to invite board members to come join in on the fun.
We are excited for our annual school talent show, which will be held April 26th, tomorrow. All students are welcome to participate. This year, we have a variety of acts, including musical performances, dance, skits, martial arts demonstrations, chamber club, and much more.
Spring sports have also started, and we are excited to have a girls lacrosse team for the first time at Novi Middle School. The team has 10 games scheduled to play against various schools, such as Maltby Middle School, Cranbrook, and Detroit Country Day. Girls soccer and girls softball is also in full swing, along with boys lacrosse and track.
Officer Julie Warren is recruiting participants for the Youth Police and Fire Leadership Academy. The group will meet over the summer and participate in various activities related to police and firefighters' work. They will also participate in community involvement activities.
Alex Erskine and David Knies, with funding from the NEF, created a wizard school-themed escape room to challenge 8th graders during A20 and the 8th grade farewell. The escape room provides a unique environment for students to employ not only their critical and creative thinking faculties, but also their interpersonal and communication skills. Teamwork and collaboration will be the key to their victory. Afterwards, students are asked to take a survey and reflect on the experience and how they might improve their teamwork skills.
Detroit Science Fair results are in. A shout out to Andrew Kim for winning a special award and recognition from the United States Air Force. Also, congrats to Amog Bolapali and Rashid Shah for winning an award from the United States Patent Office for their project. Shanita Balraj won first place in environmental science for her project. George Lenschko won second place for chemistry. In addition, we had 5 students qualify for outstanding awards and received 14 awards for excellence. All students competed within the junior division.
Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
So tomorrow, we are invited to come, I understand. I'm not sure what time. We might have to ask Mr. Baker what time.
Variety shows in the morning for, I believe, 7th grade, and then afternoon at the end of the day for 8th grade.
And what about the Novi Power Day?
That's
It's kind of throughout the day, so when one group's doing the variety show, the other
Oh,
class
okay.
will be doing activities, and then they kind of flip-flop.
Okay, fantastic. So if anybody has some free time tomorrow, they could,
Free at all, you're welcome to stop by, and I'll direct you to what's going on.
fantastic. Lots of exciting things going on. You guys are excited for tomorrow.
Yes, we-
definitely.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you for being here again.
Yeah, no
And-
problem.
And you do look very sharp.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Like you should be board members, perhaps. All right, moving on to our next item on our agenda is our report to the board. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Chartwell's Dining Services has been the district's food service provider since 2013. We're missing a number. Providing some breakfast and lunch service to students and staff, as well as catering services to district and local events. Tonight, Eval Gazzarato, the food and nutrition director with Chartwell's for the Novi Community School District, will provide an update on the food service operations, and she is joined by Ann Smith, who is a regional director for Chartwell's. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight. This is my first time speaking in front of a couple of you, so I just wanted to give a brief introduction on myself. I am Eval Gazzarato. I'm the food and nutrition director for the district. I oversee our daily breakfast and lunch operations, nutrition education, and culinary education, as well as provide catering services and a variety of other things, which you will see plenty of in this presentation. And this is Ann Smith, who is a district manager for Southeast Michigan with Chartwell's. So we'll do an operation review, a little bit of a financial review, and talk about what we are working on for next year. First up, I'm going to talk about our Discovery Kitchens. This, in particular, what you're seeing on the screen right now, we did near the beginning of the year with the Parkview Gardeners, and we collaborated with them using up what they had left from their garden for the year. So we had potatoes and eggplants and a few different things, and we put together roasted eggplant and hummus and oil and vinegar potato salad. And we go in, we do a cooking demonstration. We show the children how to prepare the items, put it together, and then we have samples assembled for them to try out and taste, and also recipes so they can take it home and try it with their families as well. This is a great interactive learning lesson with the students, and a great way to tie in their gardening and all their hard work that they do with that, and show them how that they can actually bring those items to fruition and use what they grow. We do a lot of different Discovery Kitchens. This is just one example of how we integrate that in the district. At the end of May, we're going to be partnering with Novi Woods with their garden items as well, and doing another similar thing.
Can I interrupt a second?
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
I'm sitting here kind of flabbergasted. So we have a food supply vendor who's actually working with kids.
Absolutely.
I've never heard of that. I mean, I just never heard. I thought you guys come in. I thought you feed our students, and
we feed the whole child.
no, I get it. But this seems to be above and beyond. It's not anything I've ever expected from Chartwell's from the beginning. So kudos to you. I'm actually shocked and happily surprised.
Come join us.
I will.
Yeah.
It is amazing when you see it.
And one of my personal favorite things we also do every year is farmers markets. So we pick 2 or 3 schools. This year was Village Oaks and Meadows 6th grade. And we put together a little farmers market for the students at lunchtime. We give them pretend money. little shopping bags, and they can come through and select 2 or 3 items that they can take home and share with their families. And during the process, we're teaching them, we have all different gourds and eggplants and all different types of things that they'll learn about. They'll be like, oh, what's this? And we'll explain to them what it is, how they can cook it, and how they can utilize it at home. The students absolutely love it. It's a great time. National Nutrition Month actually just was in March. We always do a lot of activities around that. I really do want to stop for 1 second. I joke I'm like the mom in all the pictures that we have because I'm the one taking them, but I want to point out the person that you'll see in a lot of these with the black hat on is our amazing Chef Donna, who is really my right-hand person and helps execute all of these events, helps with all the catering, and helps with training throughout the district, and does a great job. So just want to point that out so you know who she is. For National Nutrition Month, we celebrated potato power and taught the students, again through our Discovery Kitchen method, about the amazing benefits of potatoes and different tidbits. Did you know that potatoes were the first vegetable grown in space? That blew them all away. We put together another sample, so we explained to them how this item came together, and they were able to sample it. And we also send home nutrition packets and, again, recipes so they can share them with their families. This year, Chartwell's put together a new concept called Student Choice. We were the first district in Southeast Michigan to pilot this program, and it was very successful. I chose to do it at the middle school. I thought it would be a lot of fun to give our middle school students a voice in what they have at lunch. So the concept of this is we take a few different flavors. So we did Market Fresh, which is like salads, Roost, which is like your chicken sandwiches, like we had a Nashville Hot, which is similar to like Chick-fil-A, Bok Choy, which are your Asian flavors, and we also did Made to Melt, which is like different twists on grilled cheese sandwiches and cheesy sandwiches. The students were able to sample all of these items and go over to a station where there was Chromebooks all set up and vote for what they wanted to have on the menu. And then you'll see the screen in the one picture, it showed real-time results. So they were actually seeing what everybody was voting for and what was winning, and it was super fun, fun banter going on and things like that, and a great way to engage the students and really allow them to have a voice in what's on their menu.
Excuse me, Nicole.
Yes?
Did the winning choice then show up on the menu later?
Yes, absolutely, yes. The winner, the first winner was Made to Melt. So we ran with that, and then ran the other ones in order. And then when we come back in the fall, we'll run a new tasting event, and the students can come again. We have a good partnership with the Adult Transition Center. One thing we do is work with some of their students to come into the kitchen and have on-the-job training, learning how to work in kitchens and such, which is a really good fit for their skill levels. And above and beyond that, we also do nutrition education. So I had them come to the high school. I did a nutrition presentation. Also integrated into that different job skills and things that they could have to utilize in food service setting. And we also went to them and taught them some healthy little snacks that they could make. And you'll see the little spider cracker things that Chef Donna put together, and we just have a great time with them. I also wanted to highlight that we are continuing to use our NutriSlice platform. This is an integrated website that allows parents to either have an app on their phone and students actually, or go to the website and you can see all the menus that we have, complete with nutrition information. You can print weekly or monthly menus off of it. You can filter based on the main allergens. So all of our foods and kitchens are peanut free, but if they have a soy allergy, they can click a little thing to filter out any foods that have soy, so they'll know what their children can safely eat. This same program syncs with the digital menu boards that we have at the high school and middle school, and also we can utilize it for sending out push messages and emails and things like that. Also, we have it can translate into 4 different languages, including Japanese, Arabic, and Spanish, which is really helpful for our community. I'm going to turn it over to Ann Smith now to go over our financials.
Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. It's a pleasure to always be in Novi. I enjoy this account so much. We have seen consistent growth every day. The kids are tasting lots of different foods, as she spoke of with the Discover Kitchens, the student choices, and they're tasting a lot of things, so therefore they're learning about new foods, and then we're expanding our menu to things that they will eat. And as a result of this, our average daily revenue has continued to climb every single month. So we're glad to see that. That's what we want to do. And we're working very hard to continue that growth. And I think, as you can see on this chart, with the blue for this year, how we're moving. We're in that right direction. As a result of that, it's our daily meals. We're always encouraging your students to eat a full meal. So it's balanced with a fresh fruit, some vegetables, as well as their main entree and their milk. And that is probably our biggest goal, is to get them to eat that full meal. And as you can see, the meals are climbing continuously. And again, I go back to our Chef Donna and Annie Val and the creative things that they're doing to get the kids to engage in having a meal. So we're very, very happy with that.
Now I'll just go over some things looking ahead, because I'm always wanting to try out new things to do with our students. For the high school in the fall, we will have a made-to-order pizza concept. And so if you think of like a Blaze or Mod, something like that, so the children will be able to come up, pick what they want on their pizza, we'll cook it very quickly in a fast Impingeur oven, and it'll be ready for them. And we also have 2 new flavor concepts coming out for student choice for the middle school, which will be an Indian kitchen and Big City barbecue. So that'll be fun to see what they want to vote on and try in the fall. We are in final negotiations for our partnership with the Novi Public Library to run their cafe space there, which will help us grow our partnership with the Adult Transition Center. We'll be able to have more students working with us and teaching them on-the-job training, provide student worker opportunities as well, and just continue to enhance our community relations.
Celebrity Chef Jetila. The students today are so much more savvy than we ever were. They don't take, you have to get their input on what they're going to eat. And Chef Jet is partnered with us, and he is Food Network. I don't know if people are familiar with that, the Food Network. He is going to be visiting your district on November 19th. And what he does, he amazes me. I've had him in probably 4 of my districts now. And his ability to talk and relate to the students is like nothing I've ever seen, from the 5-year-old to the senior. I mean, he really does a phenomenal job. But his whole goal is to get the students engaged in the choices that they make when they eat. And he really pushes healthy eating. And I think you get a chance, November 19th, we will have our agenda much more finalized, obviously, over the summer. But we will be doing 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and 1 elementary school. So it's a very fun day, it's very informative, and, I don't know, lots of fun.
Thank you. Are there questions that board members have for Nicole or Ann this evening?
I'd just like, Yuval, today at, was it today at the high school? You had new...
The ramen noodle
bowl, right?
Yes, that was very popular. It went over well. They surprised us. So we had over 120 students try that out today. So that was fabulous. Yes.
Fantastic. Yep, Mr. Mayor.
With regards to the breakfast program, how many kids do we have actually partaking in it around the district?
That is not as high as I would like it to be. It varies from building to building. So, but I would say we're about 300 a day.
So half hour before class starts, or?
Again, that varies from building to building. So, high school, middle school is before school starts. And a couple of elementaries, some of the elementaries, school starts, and then the kids are able to come down and get their breakfast and take it back to the classroom. I do have, I was actually just awarded a few days ago a couple grants to help enhance our breakfast program. So I'll be putting that into motion for the fall.
So can we crash if we want? Would you mind if we kind of crashed and checked it out?
Please do.
I was at the high school yesterday, and the breakfast program was in full swing before school. The kids coming in to get stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Breakfast is always something that I am trying to grow because I firmly believe my belief is that a student needs to be well nourished in order to learn overall, but they certainly need to have a breakfast. We need to make sure that we're enabling any child who needs or wants to get a breakfast the opportunity to have one.
Great. Well, we do thank you for being here. We thank you for the exciting things that you're doing.
Thank you.
I didn't have dinner, so I'm really hungry after this presentation. I should have been thinking more in advance, so thanks.
The food service program is under Miss Minnick's direction, and she works with Yuval on a regular basis.
So I'm just going to ask you gentlemen, are you excited about the high school next year?
Definitely.
Mod pizza. So
Yeah.
good things to look forward to for you as well.
Yes.
So thank you again for being here. And next on our agenda is our district mental health report, Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Dr. R.J. Weber, Assistant Superintendent for Academic Services, along with other staff members, will report to the Novi Community School District Board of Education the district's mental health series and nationwide statistics. The interest in the district's mental health series has grown, and from the interest and conversations that have taken place within these sessions and outside of these sessions, it is apparent that there's an enormous need for this type of information and intervention. Tonight, Dr. Weber will show how the program has grown and talk about the interest that our students, staff, and community have shown this far. He will discuss the mental health events and activities that have taken place and how the district is meeting the mental health needs within our district. Dr. Weber.
Good evening. I hope everyone is well out there tonight. Tonight, I'm privileged to have with me Melissa Matson, Darby Hoppenstedt, and Brian Gordon, who will all be part of this presentation as well tonight. So our athletic director, my colleague who I share an office with, in Melissa Matson, and then Darby Hoppenstedt, who's our coordinator of 504 and MTSS work. Gentlemen, you're in for a good presentation. I'm excited to get your feedback as well. So this is really the question that was posed to us by the school board. Why is mental health an important focus of the district? First, I'd like to simply say, why are we indeed here tonight? Because our students matter, our staff matters, our families matter, our communities matter, and you matter. Fitting into the Novi Community School District Strategic Plan Summary. So we went through a strategic planning process, and if we look at our goal focus areas around communication, academics, mental health, and personnel, mental health and well-being fits perfectly within this purview. And this is really an effort that, as Ms. Matson, Ms. Hoppenstedt, and Mr. Gordon will speak to, has been going on with an intensity now for about 2 years. I believe it was 2 years and 1 week when Melissa and I met on this, and we started doing our research. The goal of the Novi Community School District is to create and implement a comprehensive K-12 social emotional support framework. So one thing I want the board and the community to understand is that our community school district is committed to going well beyond a heroes and holidays approach where we bring in a speaker, people get excited about it, and then we do nothing. This is something that goes from our early childhood center all the way up through our career prep, and you'll see how. It expands into our athletic programming in a deep and profound way. Again, 6 of 10 of our kids are involved in athletics in our community school district. Also, when you're listening tonight, I want you to think of the fact of one of the ways as a nonprofit organization we gauge our success is what kind of impact do we have on people outside of our organization? Who replicates the programs that we have? Who is interested in coming and learning from us? Who is interested in having us help them expand that? And you're going to see our mental health efforts and what we're doing around well-being have already brought interest from folks around us, and Mr. Gordon will speak to that. Hugely important part of our initial work in the first phase was decreasing the stigma. And Mary Ellen Malaya, who's New York State's Education Commissioner, decreasing stigma, changing attitudes, and giving students practical knowledge they can use when it comes to mental health problems they or others face is why we do this work. Also, right up the street, a lot of respect for the work they're doing in Ferndale Public Schools on social emotional learning. We know that when we focus on the whole child, teach social and emotional skills, and intentionally provide a safe, positive climate where our students feel more confident and accepted, teachers have more time to support learning and academic achievement success. So I know a few of you understand and have heard of Maslow. We heard of Maslow. So those very basic needs. One of those ideas that we're really coming to in the piece that the research shows us is you cannot get to the academic or the Bloom's taxonomy without first taking care of how a person feels. Do they feel safe in the classroom? Do they feel safe in the school? Do they feel cared for? And here really is, here's the story. So you look at the picture that's up on the screen right now, and those are our kids. Those are Novi students and a couple of our staff members. That was about 15 minutes after they delivered a presentation of the Depression on College campuses at the University of Michigan on well-being and mental health of our high school students. The feedback we had, one of the comments was the absolute best session of the conference. High school kids, our kids, kids like you, right? It makes us exceptionally proud. They had the courage to share their journey through being a high school student, and really not just Novi. The whole notion is that high schools across the country and what our kids face. And as I look at their picture and I look at their faces and I look at those smiles, some of you who are there realize they came out of some very difficult conversations. Conversations that were not only difficult for them to have, but difficult words to say. And if you look at on the white, some of the feedback that came from it is one of the most difficult things for me to hear from our students is what is taking you so long to help us? So what Ms. Hoppenstead is going to delineate and clarify, what Mr. Gordon is going to delineate and clarify, and what Ms. Mattson is going to delineate and clarify will be things that show that for the past 2 years and on, you'd be hard-pressed to find a community school district that has a K-12 approach as we do and have committed the resources we have. So imagine how difficult it is to hear from our kids, from our homes, and our schools that it's not nearly enough, right? This is not something to get us down, but this is something to keep us hungry for the fact of what more can we do, what do we need to do to help our students. So with that said, I'd like to pass this over to Ms. Mattson.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Mattson, and I am Dr. Weber's assistant. I would like to take you through this slide, which is a public health model, that we received from an associate at the University of Michigan Wolverine Wellness group. She is the director of Wolverine Wellness and shared this model of public health for a society. We can also use this model of public health for a local public school district such as Novi. I'd like to take you through each of the circles to help you understand this a little bit more. If you look at the first circle, the orange circle, the individual circle, in a public school district, that would represent a student. It would also represent any type of staff member or board member, an individual within the district. The next circle is the interpersonal circle. This includes the social circles that people operate in, their social networks. In a school district, This could be a club that a student is representing or involved in. It could also be a department of English at the high school that a teacher belongs to. It could be a team, a debate team or a tennis team, anything where people are relating with others. It could also be somebody's family. The next circle is institutions and organizations. Excuse me. This represents buildings in our school district. It could also represent the district as a whole. It could be also the educational services building. The next circle is the community, and that is our Novi community. It consists of library, different groups, citizens. The blue circle, the final circle, is the circle that addresses structures, policies, systems, laws, our government. Because we're a school system, we only have a limited realm of focus. So the first three circles, the individual, the interpersonal, and the institution, is our circle of care. This is what we can affect and what we choose to work on. It's our responsibility. The circles outside of that, the community, the structures, policies, government, systems, those are circles of influence. We can influence those things by the different undertakings that we take care of. All mental health initiatives need to occur on each of these levels. Recently, the Novi Community School District building principals, as well as school counselors and psychologists and social workers, all undertook a very serious webinar on suicide assessment risk. And with that webinar, we learned some very, very startling statistics that I'd like to take you through. Depression. Depression is a mental health illness. It is a diagnosis, a formal diagnosis. It is the most debilitating disease in the world. Depression will be the world's most burdensome disease by the year 2030, and it will cost $1 trillion. Depression is already the most burdensome disease in middle and high income countries. These are both statistics from the World Health Organization. It is the #1 cause of work-related absence and costs U.S. workplaces an estimated $41 billion annually. And this is all in lost productivity just from days missed. Depression is also the biggest source of suicide. It's the biggest cause. Most people with mental health issues are not suicidal. Excuse me. But 90% of individuals who die by suicide have untreated mental illness, and that 60% of those people have depression. Suicide is a global health crisis. Nearly 1 million people die from suicide around the world each year. It causes more deaths than natural disasters, war, and homicide combined. Suicide is the #1 killer of teenage girls across the globe. It is the second leading cause of death among ages 13 through 35 in the United States. 60% rate, there has been 60% rate increase in ages 8 through 12 of suicide since 2012. 50% of mental illness begins by age 14, and 75% begins by age 24. With these statistics that I just shared with you, how in the world at Novi Community School District are we going to deal with mental health needs? When we talked about those nested circles, In the public health model, we talked about the individual. We talked about the interpersonal realm that individual lives in. And we also talked about the institute, buildings, the district as a whole. The 5 bullets that I'm going to list here for you all lie within those 3 circles. And those are our circles of care. We have staffing, training, curriculum, student, staff, and community programming, and procedures. Things that we have done in the past, things we are currently doing, and we will also take you through things that we will be doing and that we're planning on doing.
Good evening, I'm Darby Hoppenstead. I'm the MTSS 504 coordinator. And I'm going to talk a little bit about staffing. We are fortunate to have trained mental health professionals in our district to support students and provide consultation to our teachers. We currently have 11 full-time social workers, 1 social worker in each of our K-8 buildings. We have 1 general education social worker at our high school, 2 special education social workers at our high school, 9 counselors, grades 9 through 12, 2 counselors at Meadows, 2 counselors at our middle school, and 5 counselors at our high school. So we, again, are very fortunate to have those supports, and thank you to the board for providing those resources. So training. Training is really about raising awareness and decreasing stigma, developing capacity with staff so we can increase their toolbox as they work with students. So talking a little bit about the types of training, we've had trauma training for our K-4 staff. The trauma training has focused on brain research, adverse childhood experiences, so ACEs, and strategies and interventions that teachers can utilize with our students who may be experiencing issues of mental health. We've done training around restorative practices, and we'll continue to provide training around restorative practices. And this really, attends to the climate and culture of our buildings, of our classrooms. We've had training on OVAS, and we know that mean behavior, bullying.
Can you tell us what that stands for?
Sure. It's really an approach to recognizing and decreasing, the bullying type behaviors, between students, and for teachers to have the tools to be able to, appropriately intervene and provide the students support.
So it doesn't really stand for anything?
It's the name of the gentleman who started his last name.
Oh.
He's Norwegian.
Okay, thank you. Well,
and actually, to the young men from the middle school, the Novi Power piece is built upon Alveus. So your teachers and students before you used Alveus as the base of that. The NEF actually provided funding to help with training on Alveus and restorative practices. So the Novi Power that you're inviting our school board members to, and that Principal Baker has learned a ton about this year, are based in Alveus. But no, it's just a Norwegian guy's last name. It's one of the most researched and peer-reviewed anti-bullying programs in the world.
Okay, thank you. It was all caps, and you kept saying Oveus, and I was like...
I think he requires that as part of his rider.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the explanation.
Thank you. So we know that, the mean behavior, relational aggression, and bullying can negatively impact students' mental health. And then Impact 17 and Impact 18, those are our professional development days we provide staff in August. So Impact 17 really focused on a variety of training for staff on helping to support students, recognizing signs and symptoms with students, and how to help them get the necessary support. Impact 18 focused on the well-being and self-care of our staff. So that was really the focus. So curriculum. Our curriculum ties to our social-emotional learning for students. Second step is our evidence-based curriculum. It covers 5 social-emotional learning competencies, which are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. And our second set curriculum is K through 8. We've also had mindfulness training and curriculum for our K-4 students. I don't know if Dr. Weber wants to speak a little bit more to that.
Sure. So that's seated primarily in the second grade. So each second grader gets that again with support from the NEF. Maybe you saw it on Channel 7 on WXYT. Today there was a nice tweet from Lily Ma, who's a 4th grade teacher at Parkview, and she actually invited Parkview second graders into her 4th grade classroom, and they actually taught mindfulness strategies to our 4th graders.
I think you're next.
Oh, I am.
All right, thank you. So other pieces of student programming, we have Haven, 9 through 12, and really that focuses on healthy relationships. And one of the paramount and the key pieces on Haven, and all of this programming is on well-being, student well-being, and mental health, and that piece of it. So when we think about this, I ask you to not just think of it simply as a person or a program or a diagnosis or a thing, but on a holistic end of things. So in 9-12, we've had Haven, and they have been amazing partners. Actually, every single 12th grader who would like to, the parents can opt out of it, receive capacity building around consent. Playworks K through 4, every one of our elementary buildings in our community school district benefits from a Playworks coach that's here 1 week in each school. And what that does is it builds a really wonderful understanding of how play and movement deeply impacts our brains and our well-being. We all know that if we exercise or walk regularly, that is something that we can do to help us feel better. Leader in Me has been a long-standing pillar of our community school district, and that really helps kids to learn how to be leaders of themselves. You Matter, 9 through 12, Principal Carter and her team at the high school, I believe 2 years of You Matter. They did it last year for the first time and then this year, where it's a whole week of student-driven activities to let kids in the high school know that they're cared about, loved, and can find connection. And then our University of Michigan Student Dialogues 9-12 has been powerful. Every summer for the past 6, we have sent groups of students to learn dialogue skills over the summer, and really they've been the backbone of Ms. Hoppenstedt's work around student voice and student agency in helping to interact and educate our staff. From a student programming piece, I'd like to introduce Ryan Gordon now. In this, there's a story behind this that I have, come on up, Ryan, that I'd like to speak to. So really this journey began, as Melissa and I had mentioned, over 2 years ago. And we were researching what can we do around mental health, what can we do to help educate our staff. We were searching the internet and found a video of a young man from the University of Michigan, a program called Athletes Connected. It's connected to the U of M Depression Center. And this football player, this big football player, is talking about depression and how it impacted him. So then Principal Miko said, hey, RJ, there's this guy that my husband knows. He does some speaking. Maybe you'd like to meet him. I said, sure. So I went and met him, and he piles out of his Prius, and he's like a defensive lineman. And I said, I know you. And he's like, no, you don't know me. I said, no, I do. I know you. I know you. He said, no, we've never met. And I said, were you in a video for the University of Michigan? And he said, well, yes, I was. And I'm going to let Brian take it from there, because during that meeting I had with this young man, I called our athletic director and I said, Brian, would you be interested in this? And within a split second, Brian said, can you be available July 28th at 1 o'clock? And from there, I think Brian's story begins, and the impact that Brian is having on the state in this issue is profound.
So this is pretty cool, and thank you for having me, RJ. Yeah, RJ gave me a call and simply said, hey, I've got somebody who would love to talk to your coaches at our coaches retreat, something that we do on an annual basis, and it's essentially for those who don't know what our coaches retreat is all about, but it's professional development for all of our coaches. And so RJ gives me a ring and says, hey, we got a guy who would love to talk to you, and it's about mental health and depression. And it's amazing how the mental illness touches everybody in some way or form. And so Will Heininger, great guy, comes out and absolutely made a huge difference in how we go about our business.
The coaches were extremely impacted. Nicole Carter said her phone was blowing up because coaches that were sitting and listening to this gentleman talk about his struggles with depression. This is a guy who is just a monster of a man who's played in bowl games, who was a starter as a freshman at one of the most prestigious college football programs in the country, and what it did to him. And our coaches just kind of ran with that. And so Mrs. Carter then took that and had Will talk to every one of the kids at the high school. So our freshman class, our sophomore class, juniors and seniors, everybody heard from Will. And then that started to take off even more because, as you know, Novi is one of those districts where we're oftentimes one of the first to do something. And so word started to spread around the KLAA, which is our league, along with other schools here in Oakland County, and even further. We heard about this guy, and before you know it, Will is now speaking in front of other coaching staffs and student athletes. I also brought Will in for our parent fall meeting, and it was just extremely impactful. Parents afterwards were so appreciative to know that they're not on an island by themselves, as many of them and their families and their kids are struggling with this illness. And so, as you know, the Michigan High School Athletic Association is the governing body for all of athletics across the state of Michigan. And each year, or every other year, they have an initiative. We've had heat exhaustion, we've had concussions. We're all aware of concussion protocols and the emphasis on treating those concussions and watching for those symptoms. Well, the new initiative for the MHSAA this upcoming year is mental health. And much of it is because of what we're doing here in Novi. RJ sat me down and we were kind of talking about what we're trying to accomplish, and we started to think about what is the best way to get into every school across the state of Michigan. What high school? Every high school. And it's through athletics. Every school is a member of the MHSAA. And so with the cooperation of Mark Ewell, the executive director, and many others across this entire state, myself, I'm part of a committee that is part of this initiative for next year and years to come through athletics. So that has just been absolutely unbelievable. Recently, we traveled to Traverse City for the MIAAA, which is our professional organization for athletic administrators. RJ, myself, a gentleman by the name of Pete Ryan, who is on the Rec Council Executive Board, which is the school board for the MHSA. Pete is the athletic director at Saginaw Heritage High School, and Coach Inglis, who is a basketball coach from Kent City, if I remember correctly, and myself, we put together a presentation, and we presented to over probably 75 to 100 athletic directors at our MIAAA conference. Now this presentation was going to be an hour, and you all know, like, when I start talking, when he starts talking, it's never going to be short. I will tell you this, it was an hour and 45 minutes long. Nobody left the room. People were coming into the room. They were getting more chairs. This was such an impactful, amazing presentation. Pete Ryan's son suffered from a concussion. And from what his story goes, and how that concussion affected him in terms of depression, his growth, the growth hormone that was going on in his body, and how low the levels were. There was a doctor here in Novi that ended up being able to diagnose it with the help of Eric Hipple, who has also been here in Novi. Eric is also on the MHSAA committee for mental health. And so Pete tells his story, and it was absolutely just tear-jerking to know what his family has been through to get to where they needed to be. Coach Inglis was an extremely successful basketball coach from the west side of the state, was this close to committing suicide. So as we're telling their stories, RJ's got his story. People in the room it was just silence. So we had well over 100 athletic directors listening to this presentation. We're going to take this message and go back to their schools. I've fielded, I can't tell you how many phone calls from across the entire state. What else can we do? How else can we get involved? And so that has made an absolute difference. And so what we're looking to do this coming fall for our coaches retreat, you'll see the leagues that are listed, the KLAA, the OAA, which is essentially, that's Oakland County, The SVC, which is the Saginaw Valley Conference, which is kind of up through Flint, up into Bay City, and into all the way over into Mount Pleasant, and then the LVC, which is right here in Oakland County as well. We are looking to come together to recreate that moment that we had in Traverse City. And that means our goal is to fill our auditorium at Novi High School with coaches, with assistant coaches, with athletic administrators, to hear that same message that was given when we were in Traverse City. It was that powerful. So I have to say, first of all, I got to say thanks to RJ, Melissa, and to Darby for bringing this to us in athletics, because we really can make an impact. You know, I've said this 100, so I'm blue in the face. Kids want to play for somebody. Coaches make a difference in kids' lives. And as the statistic was said, we've got 60% of our kids from grades 7th to 12th grade are participating in athletics. And we don't have to just stop with that either, because this is something that is going to be contagious across the entire state of Michigan. So, again, thanks so much, and I'm going to let you guys take that from there.
All right, so thank you, Brian. Thank you very much. From a staff programming standpoint, before we go on to that, remember what we said at the beginning as well. One of the ways that we judge our success is it replicated in other places? Do people look to our organization as a place for not only great ideas, but then following those great ideas within their organizations? And the answer is absolutely, unequivocally, yes. Brian took the lead on this, and really from a completely selfish standpoint, as he said, every school has an athletic team. The MHSAA actually has a better chance of getting this message into every high school in the state of Michigan than many other professional organizations, so being strategic is important. And I think people didn't leave the room because you gave them the eyes. I'm just kidding. Brian was, amazing that day. Being here 9 years, I've seen Brian take some slings and arrows from people. And working with this guy as I have, I don't get it. I mean, as an athletic director, a person who cares about kids, a person who holds his coaches to a higher standard, I think we're all very, very lucky. From a staff programming standpoint, Employee Assistance Program, or EAP, for those of you in the private sector, maybe on our school board, your organizations may have EAPs. It's sad to say, but community school districts rarely have an Employee Assistance Program. So again, being a trendsetter here, I'm proud of the fact that Dr. Kinzer has brought an Employee Assistance Program into the district that gives our staff, at a minimum, 6 visits to a professional counseling staff if they need it for mental health issues. Allows them, if they're having substance abuse issues, to go forward and to get help anonymously. The notion of just taking care of our kids with forgetting about our teachers or our staff is absurd. So we have to build a pillar that also attends to our staff well-being. And with that said, I'd like to bring Ms. Madsen back up for this part.
If you remember back to those nested circles, the second circle was the interpersonal circle, and that contains people, their parents. We were able to tag along with Will Heinerger's visit to the high school. He agreed to come and visit our parents at Novi Public Library for an evening. The whole purpose of that visit was to take the shame out of mental illness. When mental illness is hidden, when it is secret, when it is isolated, it can promote shame. And by having dialogue and talking, just like Brian talked about and RJ talked about at that athletic conference, the shame is gone. And we need to do more of that. And so this thus began our community education program for mental health, was with Will and a psychiatrist, Dr. Sagar Parikh, who came from the University of Michigan Depression Center. I need to also let you know that we have been very blessed to have a very wonderful working relationship with the University of Michigan Depression Center in a lot of different ways. So that evening, we were able to collect names of parents who were interested in dialoguing about mental health. So RJ and I decided that back last March 2018, that we would invite some of these parents who were interested to talk about mental health. And we talk once a month. And there were so many ideas at that meeting that it was really hard to figure out what's our focus going to be. So we came up with that we would like to have for this calendar year, this school year, 18-19, that we would like to have 3 mental health education sessions. The first one was on October 1st. It was very moving, it was very honest, it was very vulnerable. We had 18 students who attended the University of Michigan Student Dialogue Program come tell us about their lives, living and breathing in Novi, at Novi High School, the stresses, the strains, the hurt, the lack of time, and the concerns that just came, and the parents who were there got to hear that. And it wasn't coming from their own child, it was coming from other students, so it's even different. The second topic that we provided an educational evening about was relational aggression. And that was a very popular subject when we tried to vote on subjects that we wanted to learn more about. We were really blessed to have Tara Mitchner, who is one of our parents on our dialogue group, who is an author, an award-winning author and a counselor, come and talk to us about relational aggression. Just last week, on April 15th, we had Katrina Lorenz come to talk to us about successful parent-child conversations. And Katrina is one of our 3 social workers at Novi High School. It seems that as each of these sessions goes on, we get more people. I just sent out an email today to the parent dialogue, mental health dialogue group. We have 92 members. The first session that we had 15. So I'd say that there's quite an interest. Next Wednesday, I invite all of you in this room, the board, to come to see the film Resilience. Resilience was a film that was used in a 3-part series to train our K-4 staff that Darby talked about for trauma training. So it is an eye-opener. It not only, you don't only learn about adverse childhood experiences for your child or for other children, but you reflect on your childhood experiences. So we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up next year, and I will pass it over to Darby.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our processes. And really, it's about an aligned and consistent approach to attending to our mental health efforts. We do this through our multi-tiered system of supports. We're not a clinical setting. We cannot treat mental health or mental illness, but we are often managing and accommodating behaviors that students present. So we try to be as proactive as possible through MTSS, but there are times where we have to be reactive and responsive to the needs of our students. So we attend to this through our positive behavior interventions and supports, or PBIS, and it's just a framework of helping students understand the behaviors that we expect and providing interventions and supports as necessary. We have what's called a DESA screener for the first time this year, starting in kindergarten. And DESA stands for the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment, and it's a assessment that's used to measure social emotional competencies in our students. Student support team meetings. These are our multidisciplinary team meetings where we bring staff together to really problem solve and develop intervention plans for students. Some students require protection under Section 504 or special education. We conduct functional behavior assessments to really try to identify the function of students' behavior and develop behavior intervention plans around their needs. We develop crisis response plans in some cases for students, and also safety plans. So, the idea is we are really trying to provide these supports through our framework, our MTSS framework.
Thank you. If I ask the board right now to please take a look at a yellow jacketed folder in front of them. So one of the themes of tonight, I hope that the community is getting, is that your kids are served by some ridiculously amazing adults who care. And everything that you're hearing about tonight or seeing tonight is nothing that we were forced to do or asked to do by the state or anybody else. This is a moral imperative and obligation from the people I serve beside. And I'm exceptionally grateful for them. What you see in front of you is just that. I'd like to speak right now about the Psychiatric Emergency Services Referral and Communication Worksheet that is in front of you. So this was born out of situations where our social workers, our counselors, our administrators were put in a situation where they felt a student may indeed engage in self-harm. We did not have something in our community school districts, and the majority of school districts do not. So you're going to see another theme here in a second about how do we gauge our success. What do we do when we're worried about a young man or a young woman in our charge that they may harm themselves? So Melissa Matson, Danielle Tagai, who is a social worker at our high school, Darby Hoppenstedt, myself engaged in a process of building what you see in front of you. And for taking a look at this, you will see that primary concerns would be a self-report of attempted suicide, self-report of a planned suicide, third-person report of an attempted planned suicide, suicidal or severe self-harm behavior. We go through here. Contact the parent. What the parent or guardian can then do is see places that they could take their child. The social worker signs off on it, the building principal signs off on it, social worker, counselor. So we make sure that we know what is occurring. The parent is presented with this documentation. I wish I could say in the 2 weeks that we've had this out in the open that we haven't used it. It has been used multiple times. One of the issues that we have is we can counsel and ask a parent, we believe that you should take your son or daughter to get help. And the parent may say, oh, this is just a phase. They're just getting excited. Don't worry about it. And what that leaves my very caring people that I work beside with is a sick feeling all night of what they're going to wake up to. What kind of email, what kind of phone call, because we don't know if that youngster was taken somewhere to get help. We obviously can't make them go. However, a form like this helps to really put a fine point to the parent of what we're recommending in our expectation. The second form, the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale. Ms. Matson and Ms. Tagai provided absolutely gold-level support in a webinar. And when we think webinar, we think of sitting in a cubicle perhaps and watching something. No. We had everybody in this room that we're in right now, psychologists, social workers, superintendent, assistant superintendent, principals, assistant principals. And we're taken through an amazing presentation on suicide and the suicide risk factors. The Air Force, the Marines, do screenings on this using this particular Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale. They're very out in the open about it. We have trained our people how to use this. It's a simple 6-question scale that also goes along to a receiving institution so they know. The yellow folder is intentional. We have worked with our friends and our partners at Ascension Providence Hospital. They know if they see a yellow folder walk into their ER, they know what that means, and they know there's a psychiatric situation going on there. So this is a part of how policy can impact that. I took this to Oakland schools last Friday and shared it with my colleagues there, and I was absolutely bombarded with people wanting copies of it because their district didn't have anything like it. I am incredibly proud of people like Melissa and Darby and Danielle and Brian. Our next steps. So really looking at training and more training around things like trauma. Going to the Children's Trauma Assessment Center at Western Michigan University, we understand there's also something called secondary trauma. So we have two principals in our room right now. And one of the things that folks who aren't in our business, with all due respect to the board members who aren't, is the fact that the people I serve beside in our buildings on a daily basis are enduring trauma that many of us can't imagine. With kids who are in crisis every single day. Principals, assistant principals, teachers, counselors, social workers who hear stories that are absolutely tragic, who have to see kids in absolute free fall and families in absolute free fall. One of the things we learned in the Columbia Suicide Protocol was the fact that some of the highest numbers of people and rates of suicide are among first responders, police, fire, ambulance, military. Why is that? These are caring, frontline type of organizations that are there at people's very worst moments and some of their best. Our teachers and administrators are no different. We care for the entire community. It's something we're proud of, and we'll be engaging in more training. From a curricular standpoint, Ms. Hoppenstedt talked about our second step programming. We will continue to look for more curricular pieces. One that we're researching right now is called Prepare You, which is a 15-step curriculum that could be seated in our health classes. From a programming standpoint, we mentioned the programming that we have, and we're also looking at that from a procedure standpoint. What goes along with this psychiatric referral part, there needs to be more pieces. For the board's comfort, we used 2 different law firms to vet the psychiatric referral form, so they went through, looked at the language, and have that, so that is there. I would like to kindly thank you for your time tonight, and any questions that you may have around our efforts or observations you'd like to make. Any of my team members are here and would be glad to come up to the podium if I can't answer the question.
Okay, I'm going to let Mr. Cook ask the first question.
Sure.
Because I can't see him, but he did text me, so I know he has one. So.
Excuse me. I love the work that we're doing and the awareness and the stigma reduction and everything. But a lot of the work we're doing is reactionary and proactively to reduce stress, to try to reduce anxiety amongst our students while they're in our schools.
You know what, Mr. Cook, you kind of faded out, so I'm not sure I understood the question in there, or that the question came through very clearly. Are you asking what is being done proactively as well as everything that got mentioned?
Yes, we're doing a lot of awareness, a lot of stigma reduction, and that type of work. And I'm curious as to what we are doing proactively to reduce stress, to reduce anxieties that are affecting a lot of our students.
Okay.
Yep, certainly. So I pulled up the slide right now. I don't know if downstairs if you could pull this slide up right now to help Mr. Cook with that. We'll start from the staffing part and the proactive piece. From a staffing issue, we have a full-time social worker in our early childhood center. We have a full-time social worker in every single elementary building, 3 at the high school, and they're engaging in that second step curriculum. So the second step curriculum is exactly that: how to mitigate stress, how to work with it, relational aggression, and so on. From a standpoint of trauma training in our K-4 staff, part of that is talking about the practices we can engage in with kids to help to reduce anxiety. So a perfect, for instance, with that, Mr. Cook, is that every single teacher and administrator K-4 learned that a student who is in flight mode, highly anxious, and so on, one of the worst things we can do as adults to try to control that behavior is to match it with that same energy. In fact, what we're learning to do when a student is in that situation is find ways to give them options to get out of it. The second step in the mindfulness curriculum, every second grader getting a mindfulness portion as well to reduce set anxiety. Also, student programming around Playworks. There is, at least for me, no better outlet to manage my own anxiety and depression than making sure that I am running healthy and doing those things. So we're always looking for more. We're also always looking for other pieces, but certainly from a preventative standpoint, we're also driving that down, in my mind, starting quite early. Any comments or wonderings that you have from Mr. Cook? Yeah.
So Paul, we're changing how we're doing athletics and how we coach. Our coaches are beginning to understand that the way we used to do it doesn't work so much anymore. The kids in our community are under such an enormous amount of pressure, and that's K-12. It's our teachers are under pressure, our coaches are under pressure, everybody's under pressure. It can be very daunting, and so the old days of staying at a varsity basketball game because the freshmen played at 4 o'clock. Well, our coaches are starting to understand that, hey, that kid needs to go home and do their homework. They need to be home for a variety of reasons. And so hanging around and supporting the varsity, we get that. But, our kids need to be able to have that opportunity to scoot out and do what they have to do because they've got 3 AP courses that they have to study for, they got an exam, they got a paper that they got to write. It's just changing how we do business. And this all comes with our training. It's going to come through what we do in our coaches retreats. And essentially, and we've had some coaches that have suffered from some of this, from some of the mental health issues. And so as we talked about when we were in Traverse City, like having each other's backs. You know, as they were sitting around the tables at this conference, they were sitting with people that they knew and who cared about it. And so it's the same thing. You know, coaches taking care of each other, coaches taking care of kids. And so
and really
it's all through the training.
Listening to our parents as well and listening to our kids say that it's too much. And what are we going to do about that? Reducing homework that is needless, looking at monitoring our AP and ID classes. And restorative practices is also, I think, an important part of that. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions that board members have or comments? Mrs. Hill?
I have just a comment, and it is my typical after we have a presentation like this, or I was over at the high school just before the meeting tonight with our IB art show, and there were art exhibits other than IB, and it was tremendous. And every time I turn around, I'm just so proud of Novi schools. And I think this is a good example of there was a need, and there was a spark, and let's identify an initiative. And Dr. Weber and his team, his amazing team, put legs on this initiative, and pretty soon we're seeing really big steps forward. And I think maybe to Mr. Cook's point, I think as the culture within our schools, I don't want to say changes, but evolves, I think our kids they're going to recognize when they're under stress more and either be able to handle it or look at their friends, and it will be a cultural shift, which I think is great, and I think it's needed in society, not just Novi schools, but across society. So I couldn't be more proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Other comments from my fellow board members? I will just say, excuse me, having someone in my family who has struggled with mental illness, as well as being a social worker, and he was in high school, his first blip, and the high school staff did respond incredibly well, given that they didn't have the knowledge then. I can't imagine how much better it's going to be for the kids that are coming now. And they really were incredibly supportive, but basically it was me trying to educate them about what it looks like and what it means in the classroom and all that kind of stuff. The fact that they're all getting that now, so that any kid that walks through their doors, hopefully they'll be able to see and recognize signs maybe a little sooner, so that we can get them the help and hopefully not lead down that road of, worsening symptoms and all those kinds of things that come after it. So thrilled that we've gone with it. The fact that it rose to the top of the discussion, a lot of the discussion at our strategic planning as well, was not really a surprise given how much growth I've seen in that dialogues group either. It's certainly amazing that every time there's new faces and new people willing to share their stories, and that, like you said, talking about it is huge. It makes an impact not just on the people around you, but for yourself. So, thanks.
Bobby, it was really powerful for your son to come to one of those meetings and share his story with the people in that room. A lot of, Melissa mentioned the shame narrative, and I think people really have no idea how many people suffer from mental health issues, anxiety, and the comorbidity between depression, anxiety, and addiction. And so what happens is our kids, to self-medicate, start to use. And as they start to use, they start to hardwire their brain around addiction. When Brian mentioned the coach who was going to take his own life, he was up in front of 90 people, could barely get through his story. This guy went 20-0. He had thrown his keys in his ashtray and was going to go take his life in a way that would look like an accident. Out of the blue, his friend calls him. He hadn't heard from his friend in like 3 weeks. It kind of snapped him out of it. And as he's trying to tell this story, and he's talking about feeling alone, and his athletic director is sitting right there, I asked the question to his athletic director, So did you fire him when he told you that he was going through this? And his athletic director said, absolutely not. Went and stood beside him, and I asked the room. I said, you're not alone. Ask the room. If any of you in this room have been touched by mental health, depression, anxiety, or addiction issues, please stand up a second. 90% of the room stood up. Right? The sooner we are okay to share what we might think is ugly about who we are, the sooner we can get to actually taking care of things and moving toward it. And what we learned about suicide and things of that nature, it is eminently preventable. And that's why I am proud to serve in a community public school district that is willing to make this something that is a priority and our community has as well. So thank you all for your time tonight. I greatly appreciate it. And I can't thank my team enough. And I can't thank the school board and our community for putting the resources behind it. So be well.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing the great things that we're doing, and onward and upward, right? Continue to see what else we can do and what other directions we need to move to reduce it, the stigma, and also get help for our kids when they need it. Okay, fantastic. Next we are going to move on to comments from the audience. These are comments from the about anything on our agenda this evening. If there is anyone that would like to make a comment about something on our agenda, we'd ask that you fill out a green card. And we lost Mr. Cook, so I'll just make that announcement really quick. If you could, if we could see about reconnecting with him. We would just ask you to approach the podium. I'm not seeing anybody move, so Oh,
still here.
Oh, well, we can't see you somehow.
We'll fix that.
Okay, so we'll get it fixed in a minute, Paul, but you can just text me if you have something urgent you'd like to say. We are moving on to our consent items. These are not items that need any necessarily discussion. We have approval of minutes and approval of the bills this evening. I would entertain a motion. Thank you, Mrs. Hood.
I move that the Novi Community Schools Board of Education approve the consent items as presented.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mr. Mena. We would need to do a roll call vote. Mr. Mena?
Okay, we'll start with Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Roney?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Next, our action.
Can we take 5, do you think, so we can take a quick break and maybe they can fix that at the same time?
Okay, it is 8:18 right now. We are going to take a break. I would ask that you would be back at 8:25.
That one.
Okay.
Thank you.
As long as we've had students stay.
Hi, we are back to the regular meeting of the Novi Board of Education after a brief break. We are moving on to our action items. I will turn this over to you, Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Our first action item this evening is our personnel report, and I will turn this over to Dr. Kinzer.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. This evening, I'd like to recommend one new hire. Is Gabriella Franciosi, a social worker at Novi Woods. We have 2 resignations and 2 retirements. First resignation, Catherine Davenport, teacher consultant at Novi High School, and also Jessica Nicola, community ed assistant at the Early Childhood Educational Center. 2 retirements, Karen Molbuck, special education parapro at Novi Woods, and Janet Cullen, media services parapro at Novi Middle School. We also have 1 leave of absence, Seth Furlow, science teacher at Novi High School, and this is a leave of absence for association work with the Michigan Educational Association.
All right. First, I would entertain a motion. Thank you, Mrs. Roney.
That the Novi School District Board of Education adopts the personnel report recommended.
Support.
Been moved by Mrs. Roney and supported by Mr. Smith. Is there any discussion on the items? Any questions that people have for Dr. Kinzer? I guess I'm assuming the new hire is a result of someone that that resigned or left, correct? Okay. And both the retirements are paraprofessionals, which we'll be needing to replace, I assume. So look for those on an upcoming agenda. All right, well, without further ado, I would ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Mena?
Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Roney.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
And Trustee Cook.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 6-0. Next is
Our second
personnel report.
And I will handle this one. Jen Mikos, the principal of Parkview Elementary School, has indicated that she will be retiring at the end of the 2018-19 school year. The process for replacing Ms. Mikos began in February with the posting of the opening. The initial posting generated almost 146 applicants. Based on our online pre-screener, 11 were selected for the first round of telephone interviews. These interviews were conducted by Dr. Kinzer. From that screening, 6 were selected for in-person interviews before a panel. 2 of the 6 candidates were internal Novi staff. 1 was a teacher and 1 was an assistant principal. The interview panel consisted of district and building administrators, teachers from Parkview, a Parkview secretary, and 2 parents from Parkview. The committee recommended 2 candidates to me to interview. I interviewed the 2 candidates on Friday, April 12th. Laura Carino is the person I am recommending to be the principal of Parkview Elementary School starting for the 2019-20 school year. Ms. Carino began her educational career as a first grade teacher. She taught for 9 years and assumed an ever-increasing role and responsibility during that time. She has also served as a building principal since 2013 in 2 different districts. Ms. Carino demonstrated a deep knowledge of teaching and learning, supporting students, working with parents, and supporting staff. Most importantly, she clearly articulated her deep concern for and support for students. Ms. Carino is knowledgeable of MTSS, understanding data, developing teams, and supporting all the students in her care as the building principal. Ms. Carino is a proven leader and I believe will serve the Parkview community well. And so the recommendation tonight would be that the Board of Education approve Laura Carino as the new principal for Parkview Elementary School.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve Laura Carino as the new principal for Parkview Elementary School.
Is there support?
I'll support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mrs. Roney. Is there any additional questions, comments about the recommendation? Dr. Matthews? Okay, seeing none, I will ask that you call the question. Mr. Mena?
Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Roney.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Cook. Trustee Cook.
Yes.
Terrific. Well, we look forward to meeting her.
We will invite her to our next board meeting.
Okay. She is serving in a district currently, correct? And then she'll take over sometime probably
starting July 1.
July 1st. Okay. Terrific. Well, we'll look forward to meeting her. Next is our bargaining teams, 2019 negotiations. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Wage reopeners will be negotiated for the Novi Education Association, the NEA, the Novi Educational Support Personnel Association, the NESPA, the Novi Transportation Association, the NTA, and the International Union of Operating Engineers actually is a full contract. Board bylaw states that the board is represented in all negotiation proceedings by a negotiating team. The board approves all members of the team prior to the start of negotiations. So we would recommend tonight the bargaining teams for the following bargaining season. For the Novi Education Association would be Dr. Kinzer, Ms. Minnick, myself, and Dr. Weber. For the Novi Educational Support Personnel Association would be Dr. Kinzer and Ms. Minnick. For the Novi Transportation Association would be Dr. Kinzer, Ms. Minnick, and Ms. Valentine. And for the International Union of Operating Engineers, it would be Dr. Kinzer, Ms. Minnick, and Mike Dragu. So we would recommend that the board approve these negotiating teams so we can enter into negotiations with all these groups.
All right, I would entertain a motion. Yes.
I move that we approve the bargaining teams as presented.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Mena and supported by Mr. Smith. So you indicated that the only full contract is the
IUOE.
Okay, terrific. So the others are all just wage reopeners.
Yes.
Okay, well, we look forward to the outcome of that, and I will ask Mr. Mena to do a roll call vote unless there are questions. Seeing none, Mr. Mena?
Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Roney.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Cook.
Yes.
All right, terrific. We are moving on to information and discussion. Our first information discussion is the 6th grade robotics course proposal. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Mr. John Bricky, principal of Novi Meadows Elementary, 6th grade next year, would like to propose the addition of a robotics course to the required specials rotation in 6th grade beginning in the fall of 2019 at Novi Meadows Elementary 6th grade. This course is designed to give every 6th grade student the opportunity to engage in a robotics curriculum. It is designed to meet the learning needs of students their age. This course will not replace any existing course. It will be in addition to the courses already offered at Novi Meadows. This course will provide students with the opportunity to develop numerous skills that will prepare them for future learning and give them a competitive edge. Students will gain problem-solving skills, develop a stronger sense of the power of teamwork, and will continue to develop the critical thinking skills targeted in their K-4 experiences. One staff member will require training in order to deliver the instruction for this course. The training will take place over 2 weeks during the summer, and there will be ongoing support from the vendor throughout the length of the school year. This comes before the board tonight as information and discussion, and will come back before the board approval at the May 9th, 2019 meeting. Tonight, both Dr. Weber and Mr. Bricky will kind of describe the course for the board. Dr. Weber.
Certainly. Good evening. We also have with us Mr. Devereaux from the Kamau, who will be here to answer perhaps a few questions. And you can't really see this at home, but he brought a picture of our own Black Frog Robotics youngsters down at Kobo. As we know, the national event is down there, and thank you for bringing that. It'll be awesome. Before we go ahead and go into the course proposal, I'd like to just take you through a little bit of what this opportunity could be, show you a brief video, and help you see how it connects to what we're doing in the district. So first is the 6th grade robotics opportunity. Kamau Edu Learning Center becomes a universal special for 6th grade students. So in doing our research, in having Kamau come out and show us, this is not simply buying a robot, setting it in the middle of the room, and seeing what the kids do. This is an entire curriculum that was put together by Pearson, which is one of the largest curriculum companies in the world. There are over 200 of these academies throughout Europe and Asia. Kamau has been an amazing partner to this community school district for 9 years. A number of our students from Career Prep actually working at Kamau right now because of that relationship. But the notion, I want John to speak to this, is each 6th grade student will participate in 34 class sessions involving mathematics, technical education, coding, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all those different pieces. Each 6th grade student will have the opportunity to earn a certification in industrial robotics if they so choose. It's 100 hours to get that. The notion is to provide a Chromebook for each 6th grader, and if they choose to go toward it, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. The course fits perfectly with our commitment to providing an equity of opportunity around STEM. And we'll show a video here of just so you can get it in your head. give production credits to Mr. John Bricky. So that's a brief look at what the actual robot looks like. And before I turn this over to Mr. Bricky, and he can share his vision, John's been instrumental in our makerspace in the 5th grade. John has been trained at MIT in makerspaces and has his finger on the pulse of really what our kids are seeing and what they need. As I've mentioned to the board on numerous occasions, we've had our K4 Curiosity Kits in place now for 2 years, and again, I can't thank my team enough. Melissa Matson was key in this. I hope you're noticing a theme here tonight about Melissa. But every one of our kindergarten through 4th grade students will receive 150 touches if they're here with us for those 5 years on CAD using Tinkercad, which is an Autodesk, which is a company within Novi piece. Coding with Osmo and Ozobot. 3D printing using Dremel 3D printers. Computational thinking using Kiva planks and using other pieces to help them get there. 4th grade, every single 4th grader, and I believe I invited the board to this on Tuesday night perhaps, or some folks, which was at Deerfield on Monday. Dr. Matthews, Dr. Kinzer, Miss Minnick, myself went and watched every 4th grader at Deerfield construct with pictures using copper tape, batteries, and actually doing circuitry with we're talking every student, each student, IEP, dual language learners, students with autism, they participated and started and learned much more about circuitry than just a battery on a piece of paper. This one's positive, this one's negative. Like, what is it that we want to do? This presentation is available to everybody. I should have taken a picture of that. The 5th grade paper circuitry is something that John can speak about. He amplified it. So he took all these kids from 4th grade and every 4th grade across the district. So we're not just talking Deerfield, every elementary. And amplified that. The vision then is this 6th grade robotics course that would be for each student. 7th and 8th, we have STEM courses available there, but I believe with going towards this robotics, we're going to really need to amplify what we're doing there to boost that up. 9 through 12, engineering classes at our high school, art classes, CAD classes, we have OTEC, we have the incubator, so many different paths. So from a K through 8 standpoint, we really believe and feel that this opportunity for students in 6th grade could meet the needs within what we have here for our kids. Mr. Bricky?
Could you go back to that?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for letting me speak with you this evening. As Dr. Weber mentioned, we're at a point at Novi Meadows where we are now receiving these students who have had these K4 experiences, have had hundreds of touches with technology, they have experience with circuitry, they have experience with coding, and now they're arriving to us and they are ready for what's next. As Dr. Weber mentioned, paper circuitry this year, we were able to take 4th graders from last year who came to Meadows with coding and circuitry experience, and we used the paper circuitry knowledge that they had to ask them to implement that with an astronomy unit and code the night sky from different points on Earth. So if you're looking up in a season from one place, what would you see in the sky? Or, another way to say that is, we have many international students, so we say, where are you from? What would you see in the fall if you were to look into the sky? Can you code that, and can you make that with paper circuitry and lights? So we're trying to take the knowledge that they have and not do the cool flashy thing, but actually have them apply it to new types of learning. What makes a lot of sense to us is, with this robotics opportunity, is to take the next step and allow them to apply this knowledge that they're gaining from circuitry, from coding, and use it in a robotics setting that is designed to meet the needs of a learner that's their age. As Dr. Weber mentioned, the opportunity it's a pretty remarkable one. There's 200 opportunities like this throughout Europe and throughout Asia. At this point, we would be the first in North America to offer it. the way the robot works is there's basically it's 3 interfaces you can use because there are going to be students with different ability levels. And we'd be offering this to each student in 6th grade because we are really working towards an equity of opportunity. We want every student to have the opportunity. So there is a tablet, like an iPad. It's not an iPad, but similar to an iPad, where there's a joystick. And you can move the robot to a position, save the position, then move it to the next position, and just keep saving. And do movements like that. That is the lowest tech way to do it, and the least precise, but you can solve a problem. The next is using a Cartesian plane and using mathematics and degrees and coordinates to use numbers and put the numbers in the robot. That's the video that you saw, that's what they were doing in that video. The third option, which you did not see in that video because this would take a long time to learn how to do, is you can learn to write lines of code to have the robot complete a task. The course is set up in a fashion where we would deliver 34 hours of the coursework at Meadows in a special setting. 1 hour a week during specialist time, students would engage in this learning with the teacher from Novi. There is an outside of school opportunity for students who are so inclined to continue moving forward and complete additional coursework outside of the school day. An option that we are looking at Meadows is to add a club, an after-school club, that would be able to leverage the space that we would have with the robots and an adult that could help move kids through the curriculum, as well as our late bus opportunity so kids could have a ride home. Again, every kid having the opportunity to do it. At the end of the additional coursework, if a student can complete it and pass the certification test, it would result in an internationally recognized certificate of robotics. That's a pretty staggering thing to consider, that we can offer that opportunity potentially to every 6th grader in the Novi community schools. When you look at what our progression of learning is for our students, the Curiosity Kits has been a remarkable thing because we are welcoming students to Meadows who think differently than they thought when I arrived here 8 years ago. They are problem solvers, they are question askers, and they want to know how things work, and they want to understand how to solve problems. And the tricky part of that is now making sure we're continuing to offer opportunities to challenge them. And I think that this is an exceptionally unique opportunity. There isn't another one like it. And so the last thing I would share with you before I answer questions you may have is, recently we've been talking about new mission, vision, goals, belief statements. 2 of the 4 belief statements: an equity of opportunity and fostering and inspiring a curiosity of learning. And I don't know if I can think of a better way of trying to address those 2 statements. So again, I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening to this. If you have any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer those for you.
Board members have questions about the course proposal? Is that a yes?
Let's see if anybody, how do we?
I'm not seeing any other questions,
Okay.
so why don't you go ahead and pose your...
Okay, this one's a softball question for Dr. Weber. No surprise, he knows it's coming. I've been trying to track him down for a long time because I've been dying for an answer to this question.
Well, I'm always here.
Please tell me. First of all, I like the idea. I think the robots look great. We still need some more information with regards to cost and answers to a few more questions I have. But this certification for a 6th grader, can somebody explain that to me? It makes I'm having trouble wrapping my head around that.
So one of the things that's really growing in education are these notions of badges or certifications. So rather than people going and finishing 2-year degrees or 4-year degrees, getting certified, so to speak, in basic levels and then adding those certifications to it. What this would simply do is be a connotation to anybody. This student could put this in their application to college if they wanted to, that they had that. a company more than likely is not going to be able, sorry guys, because there are laws about age and when you go work in factories and whatnot. It's much more, Mr. Mena, about as John said, the extension. That we have students in our district that are going to plow through the 34 hours and want more opportunity. What this does is it allows platforms for them to go further and have some way to show that they have went further and done it. It is not an expectation that any one of our students would need to hit that level, but that opportunity is there for them. So when I work with parents in our community school district, I'll work with parents who may own IT companies, do business around the world, and the press they have on me is, what are you going to do at an earlier age to expose our kids to the world that I live in professionally? That notion, what John said, of coding, of going to those spaces. We have kids who are growing up in houses that I feel fairly certain are going to blow into that 100 hours pretty quickly. I can already see kids getting together on a Saturday with their laptops, doing that work together, learning together. And what Mr. Bricky said about actually creating an environment, a club for it, is there. But John really brought home this equity of opportunity standpoint. If we can provide a chance for 500 kids a year, if they want to get that certificate, just to work towards it or show it, to me, there is nothing but upside there. We have 35 robotics teams in our community school district. Not every parent can have their kid on a robotics team. Every student sends their kid to 6th grade. So, and perhaps, would you know anything else, our friend from Kamau, about the certificate or not? If not, we get the answer.
Yeah, we can.
Come on up. They need to be able to hear you.
Or at least see you.
Mr. Daryl Dubé is actually standing in for a gentleman we've been working with, unfortunately, and I want you to notice the attention to detail on Mr. Dubé's lapel.
Yes.
My, what is on your lapel?
Well, let me tell you.
Yes, please tell us.
I happen to be donning the Black Frog Robotics team badge, banner. So these were, I don't know if I have enough for everyone.
We can share online.
It's a bad table to try to
It's a bad-
sort
it
things.
doesn't- Here.
These guys,
You guys mind passing those down? Thank you. So, I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert on the EDU and all the curriculum, because I'm not. Mark Anderson is. He had a family emergency and was not able to be with us tonight. But I will say that teams like what you're looking at right there, I don't know, have you guys been down to the First Robotics Championship at all?
I've watched it online, but not to the big one.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So tomorrow and Saturday, if you can squeak out a couple hours to go down there, it is electric. It is so fun to watch these kids of, from junior high, well, actually the smaller ones that are doing the Lego competition. I didn't get to see them yesterday, but I saw junior high and then I saw the high schoolers. And as I walked around, they are collaborating. There's 15 people on a team. They all have roles. They all know what they're doing. They're all very into everything. Somebody pointed out something to me that I didn't catch right away. And they said, look around and what do you see? And I said, well, I see a whole lot of kids just having a blast and really engaged. They said, what don't you see? And I go, I don't know. And he goes, you don't see this. There's no kid on their cell phone texting or whatever it is that they're doing. They are fully engaged in what's going on here. And I said, oh my gosh, I hadn't caught that, but now that you mention it, how exciting it is to see, these kids and young adults just loving what it is that they're doing. So I really applaud what you guys are doing all the way from kindergarten right on through. So
I'm trying. Thank you.
You're doing a great job.
And so Daryl came here at the last minute because of that family emergency for Mark. So Daryl's really here to take notes, to bring any questions that we have back to Mark so we can get those questions for you. So if you have technical questions, those are things that we'll be able to answer in much more detail after this evening. So please ask them if you have them. Some of you, and I know Ms. Roney, you have a deep relationship with Fennec. You know a thing or two about robots. So we are so fortunate to be where we are in Michigan. There's a reason this competition is at Kobo, right? When we look at robotics manufacturers like Fennec, when we look at companies like Kamau, and Mr. Cook, you know, what's the Japanese robotics company that just moved over to 12 Mile? Nachi. So Nachi's here. It is expansive, the opportunities that we have. The thing that makes the Kamau piece unique for 6th grade is an entire package, again, of the instructional components of it with the device, with those pieces, and that's really the part that makes it unique on that end of it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, terrific. Other questions about the course? I know I did.
There are some cost issues, and we're still working those out. We have 2 weeks before the board would be asked to vote on this, so we will get that documentation to the board so that you'll have a good sense of what the cost would be to the district.
And the reason the cost issues are there is that, and our team, John and Melissa, Wanda Ciancio, Jeff Maz, Jill Minnick, really looked at every possible option to protect our district. So we went through the contract, found some things in the contract that we needed changed, and then Melissa brought up this notion of leasing the product. In the sense, is there a way to make sure we can get a refresh, or make sure that we kind of protect or guard ourselves against that? I have no idea, Ms. Minnick, but I know there are other financial kind of implications of lease versus purchase versus. So I'm very grateful that you're here to help us through those woods.
So we're working on those issues, and we'll get that information to the board before you're asked to vote.
Okay, that would be, I think, helpful for everyone. Mr. Cook, did you have a question?
Yeah, he's not coming through.
Yeah, we can't hear you right now.
Let's see, maybe while.
I don't know. The bandwidth, you guys are cutting out every once in a while too. So, as I've stated in the past, I'm really concerned about safety. ISO certification or ISO standard on cobots and being able to work in proximity to these type of robots, regarding the masses carrying, the speed, the surface area that it's contacting a human body, and the area of the human body. My concern in this is just like anybody. Yeah, you're going to train how to use it, but if you're using a joystick, it'll go wherever you want it to go, and there's a potential of contact with another student. I guess, what are we going to do to mitigate that risk, and that students are out of the range of these robots at all times? My other question is, Mr. Brickey mentioned this could potentially be a club, and to get those extra hours in for certification. Well, that is 70 hours. That is meeting pretty much twice a week for an hour after school. And is that going to become, the FTE that we're looking for to fill this position, are we going to expect them to take on that, or what are we going to do? Is it will be? Is there any additional certifications or instruction other than the 2-week course that this FTE will get in order to teach this class that they're going to need?
Okay. So did you catch those?
Yep. So on the first part, on the safety aspect of it, we can get the more detailed answers for the board on that. So that would be a key to bring to Mark. My belief, though, is seeing the video that we showed tonight, you're going to see the fact that there'll be tables set up and so on that are a natural barrier. And that if this is in 200 other places, I would hope that was thought of, but certainly we'll get the answer on that. And regarding the club, the way I interpreted it, John, was the fact that you would provide the opportunity for kids to be there if they wanted to be there. But really the other part of this is every single 6th grader getting a Chromebook to be able to take home and interact in that way as well.
Yeah, Mr. Cook, what I would say to that is, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to get kids to 100 hours. I'm trying to give them an opportunity to engage in a process or in working with something that they enjoy on their own time. And if it gets them closer to that, if that's a goal of theirs, then that's fantastic. But working out a math problem to figure out how every kid can get to it, that is not the goal of a club like that at all. It's just trying to extend another we have 14 clubs at Novi Meadows currently. Trying to extend many opportunities to students. This would be another opportunity to extend is how I would view that. So it would not be the expectation of that teacher to run this club or to figure all that out. We would figure out that person would be welcome to run the club, but it would not be a requirement. As far as additional trainings go, it is our understanding that the 2-week training course in the summer is sufficient training to conduct this course in an exceptional fashion.
Okay. Did that answer your questions, Mr. Cook?
Well, then would it be a certified teacher or would it be a CTE type situation if all they need is the 2-week training course to teach this class? And the other thing is, we're in one of the carrots out there is the certification, and that being 100 hours. So, and that's 100 hours of instruction, not just going and necessarily playing with it. So, of that instruction, you still somehow have to provide really a certified instructor to deliver those hours. Yes, kids, it's up to the kids whether they want to go that far or if they want to do more or whatever. I understand that, and it's an equity of opportunity. It's an opportunity that every kid has to be able to do that. But if we're going to put that carrot out there for them of the international certification, then we need to be able to be prepared to provide those instructional hours for them.
And really part of that is where the Chromebook that they can take home comes in, because part of this is you can do many aspects of this program without actually being at the robot itself.
So it's some self-directed learning.
Yep. And from a certificated teacher standpoint, Dr. Kinzer?
We would certainly put a certified teacher in this classroom, and then so the educational skills and experiences that person would bring along with the training they receive to teach the class is why we think we would have a quality educational experience overall.
So is this teacher going to be one of those hard to fill positions? Because we're looking for a certified teacher. We're going to provide 2 weeks of training, like our IT courses that we treat, the coding courses we teach in the high school, where we can't find teachers with those that.
Okay, so the question is, will it be a hard to fill position, and will it be a...
I don't believe it will be, because we don't need a particular hard to find certification. I mean, I think we can have an elementary certified teacher, a K-6 certification, easy to find, and perhaps somebody with a math background. I think we'll have flexibility in filling the position, and then providing the training along with the certification.
Again, so then in part of the curriculum that Kamau is provided here, do they list, what would be beneficial, whether would be a mathematics, or would it be an industrial arts, or what is better?
So if I can understand, I'm good at, I think, listening to both. So the piece is, when we talked to Kamau, when they came and demonstrated, they brought one of their lead teachers from Italy over to demonstrate and show us. And the biggest thing is the person needs to have the proclivity to want to learn this and to want to teach it. Having a mathematics background is certainly going to be something that is helpful. We have people at Meadows right now, actually teachers who were in industry before, who are now teachers, would be interesting to approach. But the first cut really has to be, do they embrace it? I was speaking to Rachel Shapinski, who teaches coding at our high school today, and she's going to take advantage of an opportunity we're providing this summer. And Rachel said, if I could have went back and got my degree in computer science, I would have. I absolutely love it. She is doing a knockout job for us and is ostensibly self-taught. So this is the beautiful part of this type of work, is that we want to first find somebody with the ability to want to do it. If we can find somebody who has that background, and I think we can, then that would be wonderful as well.
Mr. Bennett?
Still back to my first question, the certification piece. I still don't get it. Okay, so for a sixth grader to get a certification, that certification will never come to use till at earliest 6 years later. So I'm having trouble understanding what the value is. Would Kamau hire somebody based on a certification that's 6 years old?
No, this is not a program to hire, for Kamau to hire people or for anyone else to hire people. The certificate in many ways denotes the learning. So to me, what's important, if somebody were to push on me and say, RJ, why is it that every sixth grader needs to learn about robotics? And I would say, in order to thrive in the economies that are in front of us, we have to have basic understandings of how our world works. If any of you have had surgery or a friend has had surgery, you know that robots are increasingly part of that. Ms. Roney, you know the aspect and the role that robots are increasingly playing in things that we never thought that they would. So the certification is not there it's not a trade school program. It's not a program to certify folks so they can go run that machine right away. It denotes the fact that this person has put in that much time toward it, which would be an indication to a future employer or anybody that they have a base of knowledge beyond 30 hours.
Can I continue? Because I do have a lot of questions, so I could either ask them or we could, you know,
Well,
we can.
if they're questions,
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what you're asking then, and so Mr. Cook asked, we still have to figure out what kind of person we would hire to fill this particular role, and they would have to go to training. I get that. I don't need the answer to that, but for somebody to get, if the goal is ultimately get a certification, somebody's going to have to be there after hours to work with these kids. So the person that you hire full time, would they be asked to work extra hours to fill that role? Do we get a second person that we train?
The goal is not to get the certification. The certification is an option for kids. The extra, it's the extension. The course is 34 hours. Mm-hmm. That is the expectation.
But where do they get the other 70 hours then? Is it just...
Or they don't. That's their choice.
No, if they choose to. So if they
choose,
they need to get 70 more hours in front of the robot?
No.
Okay, so this is just online learning. At that point, 34 hours of hand touching and doing programming with the robot. After that, the 70 hours doesn't involve any work directly with the robot.
So if we look at what's going on at Kobo right now, and if you were to go on a Saturday or Sunday and watch our Frog Force team, you would go into a room where you would see 10 kids in there and all they're doing is hammering code. 8 hours of it. Very similar in the fact of here where they're building it.
Mrs. Roney, did you have a question? Can I ask?
Well, I just, a question for the gentleman from Kamau. Paul was worried about the robot. What is it made of? Is it a hard plastic? Is it steel? You don't know.
It's a
I'm sorry.
plastic and it's a combination. Could we flick up to the video again, please? Ms. Roney, can you see the...
Yeah.
Okay, so let me click it so you can have an idea, because you will have an expertise in this. In actually working with them, it's a plastic base that you see there.
Okay.
And then predominantly plastic is what you're going to see on the robot itself. It's lighter weight, it's cheaper to make.
Right.
Because it's a non-industrial type of robot, the Fennec robots will be making cars and things like that. This is simply manipulating objects and so on, or using a marker to draw.
Right. So, I mean, I wouldn't worry so much about the safety, I mean, because it doesn't look like it's moving very fast or anything like that. I understand, like the industrial robots, you need a lock to get into place, a lock to get out, everything like that. Understand that. This looks a little, kid-friendlier. The next thing with the certificate, is it something that, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, it's like where they show something, this is what you need to do with the robot, you need to have it manipulate, put something here, drop it here, do that. So a lot of it is programming, it's not actually seat hours, and then once you get the program written, you go try it on the robot. Is that kind of how it works?
Absolutely.
So therefore, with the club, they could write the program, and then when they go into the classroom, they apply it and see whether it works or not. Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Okay, great. Other questions from the board?
Sure.
Okay.
Now, you also mentioned that you wanted to look for the district to finance the payment of the certifications for those kids who want to reach. What kind of cost are we talking about? Because I didn't necessarily see that on here. So
I have it in my head, like an idea of what that cost is, but we'll get that to you in writing just so I'm sure of it.
is that typically
It's
something
less
we do
than
for?
$10,000 and more than 50.
Is that typically something that we do in other areas? I mean, do we have any precedent for doing that sort
Well, we
of
do.
stuff?
Well, we pay. There are a group of kids that we would pay for advanced placement tests for, IB tests, and so it may not be across the board, but we have paid for other tests for students.
And that's a great question because we can't predict what would happen. I mean, if this takes off in such a way that we had 400 kids wanting it, and that puts a load on our general fund, that's a conversation that we have to have. We can't go ahead guaranteeing that without betaing it and really seeing what's going to happen. But it's hard to project that. Like, it's hard to project what the state budget's going to do, over the next 3 years. It's hard to project, how many kids are really going to go with a program like this, and we're going to have to make sure we have contingencies on that.
And did you have another question?
Yeah, so how many robots are we planning on purchasing? What's the need?
6.
6 of them? And so you're thinking about either buying or leasing, and we just no clue, round ball on what 6 robots would cost us?
A round number on the 6 robots, the curriculum, the training, and every piece of it is about $106K. But that is that round piece, but we are working through the budgetary pieces, the sole sourcing aspects, the different legal aspects that we have to.
Right. And you have almost $200,000 in Chromebooks, 600 Chromebooks. Can you explain why we need a Chromebook for each student in 6th grade for this program?
Yeah, so part of it is for this program, but part of it as well is the notion of one-to-one is something that Dr. Matthews and I, when it really came about, were dead set against, because we felt that if you're not going to connect the technology to actual instruction, that it's not worthwhile. Really looking at the 6th grade and using the 6th grade as our fulcrum from this is the Chromebooks are something that would work really well with this program, but as the ecosystem has grown, as we become a district that increasingly uses Google and a society that increasingly does work online, there are better opportunities to use it. And I know, Mr. Bricky, you have personal experience with how this works. I was in a meeting the other day with Ms. Hoppenstedt. Big smile comes on her face because her son invited her to edit a report he was doing or something. And there has been such a pivot in the 8 years that Steve and I have been together on technology, so that's why. And if we're going to do and find out, and Robert Baker's here from the middle school tonight, does that then mean an experience where we start to provide some sort of device 6, 7, 8? A way to find out is to use it and apply it in a setting like this.
But the intent of the Chromebooks is not for this program. A piece of it is that it would be beneficial to this program, but then they would use it in other aspects of the 6th grade curriculum as well.
Yes.
So we're shifting now. We've never been a supporter of one-to-one technology, but now this is a new shift.
Kind of a pilot to see how much they would be used during the school day, how beneficial they would be for teachers to not have to share carts between classrooms. And so it's an opportunity for us to experiment with the one-to-one environment in a kind of a coincidental or a positive benefit of this is that they could also use it, that equity of opportunity to have them at home to use with this curriculum for the robotics course.
So why don't we just split that out into a different action item if it's not really part of it? Because I can't see, knowing what Chromebooks are, I mean, they're just dumb machines that you can browse on, really. Right. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So whatever you can do on a Chromebook, you can do on any other computer, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm struggling I'm struggling supporting a $200,000 experiment here. Because that's really what we're saying with these Chromebooks. Chromebooks were really never made for this purpose. I don't see how taking a Chromebook, again, my first reaction was that this thing was really in support of this particular program, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first I'm hearing that these Chromebooks would actually be used for something mostly outside of this particular class.
Is there a question that you would either like it removed, or I'm
Well,
trying
it's a big, it almost seems like it's a different item. It doesn't seem like, you're telling me that this is really, that piece is really tied to a different plan in general, not necessarily to this particular program, because I don't think we need 600 Chromebooks to do this class.
You don't need it to do the class, but it provides what our community talked about with an equity of opportunity, so students can engage in this outside of school as well. The notion of a device being dumb, and the notion of how the example I just gave of Ms. Hoppenstedt's third grade son interacting with her through said device would show that really it makes the point that it's never about the device. It's about what you do with it and how you use it to communicate and interact. I would never expect technology to replace a teacher or human interaction. However, as I look at these two young men here, and what a wonderful opportunity for student voice if you guys want to chime in. The opportunity to do work across platforms, to collaborate together, to share that human experience is one that, in my belief, is very worthy of beta testing to find out. If we were to look at what we've spent as a district on many things, in their impact on teaching and learning and how we do, that could also be an intriguing exercise. I would say that this notion of Chromebooks being part that could provide, again, let's take a look at the video just one more time, please. If we could take a look at what you see on the expression on the faces, I'll wait till it gets up, because I don't want you to look at the robot right now. I'll wait. Downstairs. We could have the video back up, please, or the screen. There it is. Thank you. So just take a look at the expression with the kids and the interaction, and imagine them connecting virtually, building these things together, working in teams, writing code together like our robotics kids or our Kobo, in that piece of it. The technology is simply a conduit for creativity. I love this. I think that's little Miss Blonsky there, right? On the left.
So as far as the cost for the Chromebooks, I can understand Mr. Mena's point that this is not necessarily a cost associated with just this program. And so Dr. Weber and I can have some conversations and give the board kind of a perspective on how these devices we believe would be used not only with this program but also throughout the 6th grade. And with Mr. Bricky as well.
Okay, and Mrs. Roney, you had a question?
It's just the come out, gentlemen. This program that the kids can go in and program code how the robot is to move. Is that something that they can sign into? Is it a web-based?
Yes.
Where if they had a computer at home, they could go ahead and do it. So therefore, they don't actually need to have the Chromebook unless they need one at home.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then Mr. Cook, did you have one more question?
Well, Mr. Mena, the Chromebooks they seem to be more for a beta test, whether one-to-one in the 6th grade is more beneficial than it is for this course in particular. The other thing is kind of a rebuttal to Mrs. Roney's questioning on the material the robot's made of and the speed it's moving. Apparently she's never stepped on a Lego in the middle of the night or cut yourself with a piece of paper. The material is kind of irrelevant. and it all, and the smell has just mate, and so I really want to make sure that we're not putting kids in harm's way. I understand industrial robots, you have to have a lock to get into them, and that's the case of them. And when you have any robot that can be moved, it's just like, picture a kid driving a remote control car. That's what they're doing, is they're remotely controlling, and if you're standing in the way and it comes and hits you, it's going to hurt. So our kids are safe.
Okay.
Right. I think around this table can all agree that student safety is an important factor, and this course is one that's been used in many other schools and across the world, and so we will get from Kamal some detail on the safety aspect of this, but we have confidence that they've thought this through before, but we will bring that back to the board as well.
Yeah, I think some of it seemed like a lot of the questions kind of were around like kind of the existing course and how that operates and how that works. At least that's what it sounded like in some respects. Certainly the certificate and what that means, because this is new. That's a new thing. Right. To me, I kind of started thinking about, is it kind of like the Eagle Scout Award for a Cub Scout, where it's just kind of this additional thing that you can say you put effort into a certain direction, kind of thing. It kind of seems like it a little bit to me. That's the closest thing I can think of to compare it to. That, so I don't know if that's accurate.
I don't think that's too far off.
Okay, so because it's a kind of a new concept, and I certainly can appreciate my fellow board members' questions about it. So if we could get some of that information around around that back to the board in the future before our May 9th meeting, that would be very helpful.
And then, Ms. Murphy, if there are additional questions from the board, if you could please have them either go through Dr. Matthews, send them to you, send them to me. We'll continue that. So if the list grows after tonight, after you've had a chance to think about it, after you've looked it up on Google, took a look at things, please go ahead and get those questions to us.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
If you don't mind me asking, is it only going to be for 6th graders, or is this around the...
Sorry. It sounds like it's for 6th graders, but certainly to Mr. Weber's point, that it might mean that we make some changes going up the grades too.
We're going to have to. If this goes, and we're going to have to drive it, so at the high school those opportunities increase, and really that's where other vendors have other products as well that are also used at our Fennec is used at Oakland Tech campuses, but also as the community is engaging and looking at spending money on a bond or something like that. The goal would be, as kids come up to the high school, that they really have an opportunity to build on all of that knowledge. So I hope you don't miss out, and you're always welcome to come down to 6th grade, play with them during club time. Thanks for that question.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's just going to make you want to go back to 6th grade, I know.
Yeah,
I've had that experience
I can make that work.
Anyways,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy well.
Terrific. We will move on now to bid package number 10. Dr. Matthews.
Okay, I will turn this over to Ms. Minnick.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Good evening. On Thursday, April 11th, 2019, sealed bids were received and publicly opened for the Bid Pack 10 carpet replacements, retaining wall replacement, and dumpster enclosure projects. In attendance were representatives from Novi Community School District, McCarthy Smith, Plant Moran Cressa, and interested bidders. Bids presented tonight have been analyzed and contractors have been interviewed. Attached is the letter of recommendation and bid tabulation from McCarthy and Smith Incorporated, the district's construction manager. Carpet replacements in classrooms and or corridors are scheduled for Village Oaks Elementary, Novi Woods Elementary, Novi Meadows Elementary, Parkview Elementary, Deerfield Elementary, and the Educational Services Building. Related contracts for professional movers and post-installation cleaning will be pursued once the bids are awarded. The retaining wall project is scheduled for Novi Meadows 6th grade house to replace the existing failing wall on the east side of the building. The dumpster enclosure project was scheduled for the high school, but the project team has elected to not move forward with this particular project. This bid pack is part of the 2014 bond project and will commence following the last day of school in June, with completion of all projects by mid-August. It is recommended that the Board of Education award bid pack number 10 projects to the following lowest qualified vendors. For carpet replacements, to Cones Flooring of Wixom, Michigan, in the amount of $766,250, and the retaining wall replacement to 6K Construction of Brighton, Michigan, in the amount of $90,050.
These projects will be funded from the 2014 Bond Capital Projects Fund. Bid pack number 10 projects are presented and recommended to the Board of Education for information at tonight's meeting. They will be recommended for action at the May 9th board meeting. And this evening we have with us Brian Gussman of McCarthy Smith and Anna Beasley of Kramer and Cressa. And all of us would be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding bid pack 10.
Thank you. Board members have questions about, Mr. Cook.
The retaining wall east of the sixth grade house, was that in point, but is this a section that was older than that?
We've got somebody taking the podium. Just a second, Mr. Cook.
Yeah, hi, my name is Brian Gussman with McCarthy and Smith. So part of the Meadows addition project, there was a new foundation wall that was put in. Adjacent to that is the existing brick foundation wall that had been in disrepair for some time, and so we put some quotes together, and then that is what is on the docket for this evening.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions for our gentleman who sat through our entire meeting? Anybody have additional questions about what I'm going to say? I apologize. If you have questions, just ask them.
I'll go if I can. More of a comment / question. So this wasn't something that was part of the original bond. It wasn't something that we had planned on doing with the bond. The reason we're able to do this today, I assume, is because we managed the bond very well, and we have money left over, and now we're reprioritizing some of the needs that we currently have with the extra funds. Is that correct?
It could be. I can say that when I came into Novi Schools about a year and a half ago, it was on the schedule of projects to be bid and to be completed. I can't speak to whether that was part of the original.
The carpet replacement was, I think at the time, it was a different administration at the time, but the decision was made to extend the longevity of the carpet as long as we possibly could. And so at this time, TMP Architecture went through and surveyed the carpet in the district and came up with this list of areas that have gone beyond their useful life.
And the retaining wall, I think, is a new project.
That's correct.
Based on saving
safety.
money.
Yep.
Other questions? Obviously, I appreciate you being here and sticking around with us this long.
Absolutely.
If there are questions that board members think of after this, please get them to Ms. Minnick so that she can get them to the McCarthy Smith or to Clamor and Cressa so they can be answered for us before this comes back on May 9th. Okay? All right. I don't have any questions for you either. I feel a little bad.
No problem.
Stay here this
No
long,
problem.
but thank you again for being here. We do appreciate you being here just in case. Next is our varsity soccer field trip. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Todd Pfeiffer, the Novi High School teacher and girls varsity coach, is requesting for the girls varsity soccer team to travel to Alpena, Michigan to compete in a soccer tournament. The team would depart after school on Friday, May 10th, 2019 and return on Saturday, May 11th, 2019 in the evening. This trip would be an excellent team bonding experience where students would be able to participate in a rigorous competition and prepare for the state tournament. Students will travel by private car. Approximately 25 students and 10 chaperones will attend the event. The cost is $50 to $100 per student and includes the hotel and one meal. This is the team's first year attending such an event. This comes before the board tonight as information and discussion and will come back to the board for approval on May 9th. You will notice that the trip is planned for May 10th, so if the board feels so inclined, they could move this to action and so that the team would know that this is going to be approved. But the timing of it was based on the tournament availability and the coach's decision that this would be the appropriate tournament to participate in based on the teams that are participating. So that's why the timing of coming to the board was not until this evening.
Okay. So, board members have questions?
Do the students and or parents pay the 50 to 100, or does that come out of?
Yes, students and parents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is typically the case, Mr. Meadows.
Well, I'd be willing to move this to action if you would allow me to make a motion.
Certainly.
I'd support that.
So I move that the board approve the girls' soccer tournament trip as presented.
I think first have to.
No.
We don't have to vote on it being an action. Oh, okay.
You move it.
Okay. That's not what were you supporting moving it to action?
I'm supporting both.
Okay, perfect, that's perfect. Mr.
Supporting
Mena,
everything.
Mr. Mena has moved that we approve the Girls Safety field trip to Alpena, and Mr. Smith has supported it. Is there any additional comments or questions? Obviously, it's the first time that they've done an away trip like this. A lot of the other teams do it, so I would certainly support it as well. So I will ask Mr. Mena to do a roll call vote.
Trustee Hood.
Yes.
Trustee Mena, yes. Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Roney.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Cook. Trustee Cook.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, motion carries 6-0. Next is our next opportunity for comments from the audience. We have lost most of the audience except for Mr. Baker. If you would like to approach and speak to the board about anything, this is your opportunity to do so. Seeing him shake his head, we will move on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Matthews.
A very brief report this evening. Into the Woods is now in the spring musical. Tonight was its opening night. It will also be there Friday and Saturday, so I would encourage our community to come out and support our students. I was at the dress rehearsal the other night, and it's a wonderful play. And I would also like to announce that Novi beat Northville in soccer tonight 2-1.
Even better. Fantastic. All right, and we will move on to administrative reports, and I know we'll hear from Ms. Minnick later, so Dr. Kinzer, do you have anything this evening?
I have no report this evening.
Okay.
I've had very little time to interface with the board tonight, so I have a robust. I'm good, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you again. Next, we have our committee reports. I will be incredibly brief. The Governance and Policy Committee met a couple weeks ago. We went through the Lusk-Albertson changes that they had recommended, as well as additional questions. Those minutes for that will be sent out to the board probably later this week, and then those items that we need to take action on will come back on May 9th with the committee's recommendations for the board. So that is that. Next is board communication. Anybody care to share anything additionally about what's been going on in the schools that you've been a part of?
Real quick.
Certainly, Mr. Smith.
So I just want to get the date right. There is an event coming up on May 7th, 2019. Not sure what day of the week that is. You guys know?
Tuesday.
So on Tuesday, May 7th, from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the 5th of Novi, which is the old ballroom on Novi Road, just south of Grand River. The event is Get to Know the NEF meeting. This will be the third annual opportunity. This is not a fundraiser. It's an opportunity for community members to show up for 90 minutes and see and learn more about what the NEF does and what the Novi Educational Foundation supports. At this time of year, we begin to line up the trustees that will serve new terms for those that have terms expiring. So it's a great opportunity for community members to get to know a little bit more about a fantastic organization.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have additional things to share? We've lost Mr. Cook, but Mr. Mena.
Yeah, I just wanted to let folks know they've still got one more day here if they're interested to support the Novi Athletic Boosters. They have their big fundraiser tomorrow night. Their craft beer, wine, and comedy night at Walnut Creek, 7:30 to 10:30. I think you can still get tickets at noviathleticboosters.com website.
Okay, fantastic. Lots of great things going on in our district. Mrs. Ronan.
I also believe that the Novi Athletic Boosters has a Vera Bradley fundraiser at 12 Old Small on Saturday.
Oh, okay. Great. Okay, fantastic. So lots of great things going on. So Saturday, go out and shop at Vera Bradley, and Friday night, you can go to Walnut Creek and enjoy some time with the fellow athletic boosters. And Saturday night, then you can go to the musical. So it's a busy weekend. So thank you. We are going to move into work session.
Will you adjourn this meeting?
So we are going to adjourn this meeting. We will take no action in the work session. So just so you know, if you want to stick around, great. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been moved by Mr. Mena.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Smith. Roll call, well, we don't need to do a roll call vote anymore. Mr. Cook got disconnected, but he said we don't need to reconnect. So we will just do a vote with what's here. So I will call the question. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we are moving into a work session. I'm going to give you guys, it is 9:30.